in the Metaverse.
So I'm not going to go into it. Yeah. So I'm not going to get into it too much, but obviously I'm the first NFT artist here. I've created my own art genre, which I call sound bites. I've also done my own collections called the Alpha Bites and Crystal Bites. And effectively, if you go to the next slide, I use, a lot of the inspiration that I use within my art is all based on sounds and words within everything that I do. So I'm somebody who likes to push the boundaries in terms of tech. I use tech as a tool brush. If you just kind of go to the next slide, please. I'm somebody who believes in changing the narrative. And so when we're talking about art in the metaverse, art is all about then being able to take what the artists are doing within this industry. And what tech is doing is it's completely changing the way we organize and the way we fundamentally use society. And art is a great storyteller of that. And so if you think about it, for those of you, who's heard of NLP? So neuro-linguistic programming. So it's very important about the images, if you turn to the next slide, the images that you use within your art. Or the images or the words that you tell yourself. So, words like NFTs, Web3, AI, Metaverse, these are all new words that have come into existence. And with these new words, new images need to be coming with it. And so from an artist's perspective, we're playing a very important part in terms of actually creating what that new world looks like. So people within the creators who are creating within the metaverses, who are creating, art that represents this is what we're actually creating what the future will look like going forward. And so what I do a lot of is I use art and tech as a tool brush. So using things like virtual reality, augmented reality, NFTs, and of course now the metaverse to create the new narrative, to create the new images that people are going to actually understand and help people understand what people are, what Web3 and NFTs and what this is actually going to do, not just for the artistic space, but actually for society as a whole. If you move to the next slide, please. And then obviously, then with the whole point of, so talking about sort of words, images, then we're talking about new storytelling, right? So when you have stories, what do you have? You have new characters that come into the story, new narratives, new players, and effectively what I try to do with my art is actually show people that the story is about to fundamentally change. Whether people understand this or not, they're starting to understand it, but as an artist, my job as a creator is to help people visualize that. And so when we think about the metaverse, for example, what is it how are people thinking about the metaverse today, right? So if we have, if you think about the 1990s when the internet came up, people were talking about the internet. And they were talking about it like this very foreign concept that, one day that there's going to be this thing called the internet, and we're going to have internet sites where we're able to kind of go onto that, and you'll be able to see things like your products. You may even be able to buy your products on this magical land called the internet. And what we're seeing here is that in the metaverse, we're seeing the same story in the narrative, the same incredibility, or the you're kind of tiptoeing around the subject of there's going to be this thing called the metaverse. And there's going to maybe be meta sites where you'll be able to interact with your avatar on the metaverse. And so the story is changing. And as an artist, I want to be able to help people move this story and create new images for them. If you move to the next slide, please. For those of you who don't know, I've created one of the world's largest augmented reality mural here at the DIFC. So if you haven't gone and seen it, I really recommend it. You can try it now. So if you just grab out your phone, if you scan the QR code in the artwork, I mean over there, it'll open up. You need to have access to Instagram. This will open up into Instagram. And then you point that make sure it's not in selfie mode, point it at the artwork, and make sure that the mute button at the top isn't done. And actually, that whole artwork will come to life while you're watching it. And if you press down on the middle button as a hold, you're actually doing a story directly onto Instagram. So not only are we could talk about this like the open metaverse, right? So it kind of started first with, I've started first with augmented reality. And this is what we call phygital art, right? Being able to take a physical object, layer on, a virtual or digital experience, and bring that experience to life in a whole new way. Then what I was talking a bit about storytelling is this artwork says Future NFT Dubai. And this is painted on the side of the world's, the UAE's largest financial institutions, which is a CeFi world. And I went and painted the word DeFi, put an Ethereum, a Bitcoin on top of that wall. And so this is what we're talking about, trying to tell a different story, right? So being able to introduce things like the MetaMask Man or Crypto Shake, or Bitcoin Abaya, and it's combining the new narrative of Web3, but also making it more localized to a more UAE flavor. But the important thing is putting new characters. So if you don't know what NFTs or the metaverse is, if you see like MetaMask there, you just think it's a fox. You don't realize that eventually you're going to see that it's actually a MetaMask. And so this is also helping in terms of educating people into the mass adoption. This is a mural that's 25 meters long, 15 meters high, and it's and people who are not in Web3 are seeing this, and a new story is being told. So if you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is for those of you who haven't seen the mural, and if you couldn't do it before, that's exactly what comes up when you scan. And if you go to the mural itself, that's actually what actually happens. And because the mural is so large, you're kind of enveloped in it. So if we look at the years, so obviously I've been doing this for a while, and I mean back even before 2021, but if we looked at the year of 2021, that was really the year of NFTs. That's when, it all exploded, when people sold his work for $50 million, and everyone was asking literally what the NFT, like what are these NFTs? Last year was a lot of talk about the metaverse, even though I think a lot of people still didn't get it, and it felt like a very, kind of subject that a lot of people didn't understand. And of course, you must be living under a rock to know that this year is really about AI. I use AI in everything I do now, and as an artist, it's an amazing tool for sort of inspiration. And next year, what are we going to see? Who knows? Is it going to be the year of the DAOs, robots, hopefully a bull market? And of course, in recent discussions, is going to be the starting of central bank digital currencies. If we move to the next slide, please. So just in terms of obviously NFTs, right? So everybody who's been in this space is, NFTs have made a real kind of transformation from art to utility-based NFTs. As an NFT artist, this becomes a very interesting story for me because I'm producing art. And I don't want every time that I produce an art piece that I have to create a 10,000 NFT collection or that I have to have humongous amount of utility. And so I would say the space is still finding that balance between, is art fine art, or is art NFTs got to have some sort of utility? What sometimes I do is I play around with the physical and the digital to make it a phygital NFT. So when you buy so when you buy the NFT, you also buy the actual physical artwork as well. And so I still think there's a lot of people, even within the Web3 space, who struggle to just buy an NFT as an artwork, as in they don't get any utility or entry into a club, or they don't get a physical artwork. I don't think we're there yet. And so I think as an artist, you just have to learn to be able to flex it and use it to tell your story, whatever that collection story has to offer. If we move to the next slide, please. So this is actually a video.
NFT?
Yeah.
Ethereum, Bitcoin, blockchain, voice note art. Traditional art. Revolution, democracy, paradigm shift. Experience it in a whole new way. Here to stay. New world. Parallel worlds. The future.
So this is an artwork which I created, which I titled What the NFT. And this is like 3D animation that you're able to actually go into the art. And where I use, and this is what I was saying earlier, is tech can now be such an amazing artistic tool. That was a 3D animation that literally took you into my artwork. Where now I'm using AI, for example, is I use AI to create my artwork. But if we go back to my fundamental way of actually how I create my artwork, it's all about a word is worth 1,000 pictures. That's the fundamental basis to my own collection, which is called Sound Bites, where a word that you say inspires images, and those images tell a story. And so even if you think about yourself, say your name out loud in your head, what are the images that come to mind when you're telling your story about who you are, and what are you telling the world about, what your story is and how you're going to say that? So the great thing for me about AI is that I use AI because a word, if you put in the words and the prompts into AI, that actually creates 1,000 pictures. It can create millions of pictures. But the point is that the power of your words is what's actually transforming things. And so I've got this my new collection, which I called AI Bites, where I use the words or the prompts, and I overlay the prompts onto the actual artwork that created the AI art. So this is the AI art that I created, and these are the words that I used to create the art. And I created it in a way so that eventually somebody could actually take the same prompts, and there's actually English. It's just written in a way that's more abstract. And you can take those words and use them into another AI and see what images you come up. So it's a kind of it's a constant kind of generative art kind of vibe. The reason also why you won't understand that these are English words is that I'm somebody who, I come from lots of different countries, but I don't actually speak a lot of languages. And I always love the way Arabic looks written. I love Chinese because I don't understand it. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create English as a language that, you can't really actually see that it's English unless you actually look a bit harder. And it's all inspired by a very surrealistic journey. If you move to the next slide, please. So now, I was talking about art in the metaverse. For me, the metaverse is actually it's such an important step in what we're doing, and I don't think people are fully understanding how important it is, but actually how simple the metaverse is. So this is me doing my same presentation in the metaverse. So you can see there I'm wearing a very boring outfit, my black outfit, and actually that is me doing the same presentation in the metaverse. And okay, so I'm going to give you the metaverse explanation, hopefully the simplest ever anyone can give it to you. So at the moment when we go onto the internet, on our phones, we're scrolling up and down. It's just an up and down. And effectively, even when we're on a screen, we're just scrolling up and down. And we are effectively an arrow or a cursor or a little whatever comes up. So we're literally just a 2D object that moves up and down. this is what we call the internet. The metaverse is now, instead of that arrow, you have now become an avatar. And that avatar, instead of you going up and down the screen, you're going into the screen. And that's about it. It's just a video game, right? And so all this is that instead of now, when you go to my website, or I'm relaunching my website in a couple of weeks, that instead of being able to just, scroll on a 2D pictures, you're going to be able to actually go into a room, walk around the room, and you'll actually be able to see the actual, like you're walking in a gallery. And trust me, when I talked about NLP earlier, neuro-linguistic programming, our brains don't understand the difference. And our brains will get very used to the internet, to the metaverse. So that's me over there. And the reason why I'm wearing that awful outfit, which is just black and black, is that actually I was wearing a bomber jacket before. My avatar was wearing a bomber jacket. Now you can see it's like it's a sunny, sunny beachside thing. I was feeling hot looking at my avatar while I was doing the presentation, even though it made no sense in my brain. So I had to quickly change it. And because I couldn't find another outfit, I had to just go with the Ready Player Me, like black t-shirt and black trousers. And this is what, why it's so interesting, but equally very scary, because we're going to become so attached to our avatars, they're going to be visual representation of me. Like already, look, today I dressed up, I made an effort, I'm wearing something that hopefully looks unique. At the moment, I don't like the fact that my avatar is just wearing a black t-shirt and a black pair of trousers. So if you just move to the next slide. And so, I don't know what is going to come. So yeah, so this is where things like metaverse clothing, metaverse fashion is going to become very important. And I use augmented reality in my artwork. I create fashion. You can buy that as a physical artwork, as a physical hoodie. You can have it as, a hoodie that your avatar can wear in the metaverse. And it's all, you can also augment reality through the screen. Just also talking about the metaverse is going to provide us a whole new range of how we're going to interact with the world. Okay, so we are now in this world. We have gravity, right? So in gravity rules, we all have to sit down and watch a presentation. But in the metaverse, we don't need to sit on a chair that's linked to the ground. And so the creativity that artists can create is going to be exponential. So I'm a big believer in personal growth, and I'm a big believer in being able to connect to one's inner voice and be able to come out and tell their story. So what I've done here is I created, this was almost a year and a half ago, one of the world's first mindful meditation experiences in the metaverse, where you can go, and this was in VR, but you can also just do it in the metaverse, which you'll be able to access my website in a couple of weeks' time, where you can literally go and meditate to a floating crystal while sitting on a floating yoga mat. Because guess what? You don't need to sit on the ground. It doesn't, and you can create a floating crystal, because you don't have to do that. You can't do that in the real world, but you can do it in the metaverse. And so what I'm excited for artists to do and to create is how can we push the boundaries to really actually changing the way we actually exist in this world and in our digital worlds as well. If you just move to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is now a move into, but it's all great, but we need to get people into this world, right? So can anybody tell me how long, any guesses that how long it took for mobile phones, which we've all got on our hands, to go from 10% adoptability to 100% almost? How many years? Anyone wants to give me a guess? How much? 10 years? Anybody else? Okay. 5 years. No, that's definitely not right. Next one. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, no. Yeah, so next one. So it actually took 25 years. So think about it. So the next slide. So 25 years from the time somebody was at a conference like us saying like, look, there's a mobile phone here. Look, it's going to do lots of things. And for 10 to 25 years for the world to be like, oh, to be stuck to their phones, right? And so, okay, now, what is the current adoption rate of crypto technologies today? What would anyone say? Again, a bit of a guess. 1%. Okay, great, almost, but next slide. So it's actually at 10%. So we are exactly where mobile phones and computers were 25 years ago. And all I'm saying is that the people who are here in this room, who've been here like me for a long time, we are already winning. We're already ahead of the curve. So it may seem difficult, especially when we're in a bear run, a bear market. Like, how can this happen? But guess what? You are building for a future. What you're building today is going to make millions of impacts, and we're going to change the story. We're changing the way the world knows the world to what it is, if that makes sense. Fundamentally changing our paradigm shift. Next slide, please. So we've got five. So for example, and this is why I'm a big believer in education. I'm going to be launching an education NFT that's coming up. It's going to be like an 8-week course, and I'm launching my Byte Academy because I'm so passionate, as you can see, about getting people to understand this world. And the only way we can do that is to actually take all the work we're doing now and actually tell it to the world. But people have to understand the new language. Not everybody knew how to use a mobile phone before. We have to educate. And this is a complicated world of tech. So it's going to be an 8-week course starting in, I'll come, if you follow me, please do. If you go to the next slide, it should have my, follow me on any of the social media channels. Keep up to date because I'm going to be relaunching my website, which will have access. You'll be able to watch my art in the metaverse. You'll be able to see my collections. I'm going to be launching my Byte Academy. And this is, for me, I want to take people along the journey, but do it in a way that inspires art through change and technology. Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.